Hi, I'm the author Michael J. Egbert, and thank you again for tuning in to watch these videos for me to introduce to you my book, Finding Christmas. The last two videos were spent primarily doing a book reading from my first chapter. Now, this will be my last video, and we will be doing the first half of Chapter 2, Fighting the Lake Effect. And I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so we're here. We're going to do the last book read, beginning of Chapter 2, Fighting the Lake Effect. The first reminder was for the store. Sarah made sure I remembered this one. I'm supposed to run to customer service and pick up some presents. Of course, she made the first errand, the one I didn't want to do. Running to the store isn't a big deal, but with Christmas almost here, walking around a store is another thing. There's likely to be an unwelcome surprise waiting for me. Each time I go, I find myself more anxious than before, worried that I'll end up in a shopping brawl. It sounds dramatic, but I don't think I'm overreacting. Every year, fights break out over Christmas sales, and I have no desire to be in one. Fighting strangers over Christmas presents isn't how I want my 2-week break to start. Besides, fighting over presents seems childish, and I can't understand someone who'd be willing to do so only to save a couple of dollars. Maybe they don't realize the inconsistency or irony in fighting over Christmas sales. For better or worse, these skirmishes are a part of Christmas, and it's not likely to go away. Somehow, civility is lost the second a sign reads, "Sell." Still, blaming Christmas for bad people behaving badly is like blaming the lottery for changing someone. Everyone says money changes people. I find that unlikely. Money is only money. It possesses no traits that are transferable. So how could money change someone? What's more likely is the people who do win the lottery were always that way. Maybe winning the lottery gives them confidence in themselves, or the more likely reason is that people started taking notice of them and could see them for who they've always been. Like the lottery, Christmas hasn't changed anyone. Christmas merely gave bad people a way to be bad. Since it's Christmas, they feel it's within their right to act out as long as it's in the spirit of Christmas. In a way, celebrating the holiday became a shield, a way for people to excuse themselves from bad behavior. I guess you could say I struggle with monster shoppers. Monster shoppers are like bridezillas. They both possess the mentality of entitlement. At least for brides, their behavior is understandable. It's the one day everything is focused on them, and it happens to be the day that will determine the rest of their life. Unlike brides, these shoppers have no excuse. The only rational excuse for them is to believe they're the only ones that Christmas matters to. And their behavior, what they're telling everyone is, if I can't have a great Christmas, then no one can. Of course, ending up on the evening news is only scratching the surface and running to the store. There's the waiting in line and trying to find parking. Thankfully, Sarah already ordered everything. Still, customer service can be a pain. After inputting the address, my phone rang. It's Sarah calling. I don't know if I want to pick up. I'm afraid. I'm afraid she has more errands to put on my list. Despite any reluctance I have, I know it's better to answer her call. It's better to do what she's got instead of explaining why I ignored her. We didn't talk long. She called about taking the kids to Santa's village. I don't know why she asked. We go every year, and it's not like I was going to expect that to change. She did mention the Johnsons coming. Maybe she's worried I wouldn't be okay with it. The Johnsons moved into our neighborhood a couple of years ago. They're the family we spend most of our time with. Molly and Sarah are basically best friends. Since they moved in, we keep finding different ways to get together. Last Christmas, we volunteered at a soup kitchen. The year before that, we did something called the 12 Days of Christmas. I guess it's supposed to be like the song, you know, on the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me. And instead of giving 2 turtle doves or whatever else is in the song, we went around for 12 days and left gifts for our neighbors. Like I said, it doesn't matter what we're doing. You can count on the Johnsons being with us. These activities are innocent enough, and even if I don't care for them, it's better to roll with it. My dad would often say it's better to give in on things that don't matter, so when they do, you have a better chance of getting them. He also had this other saying, it's better to pick your battles than have them pick you. I remember one time I asked him what he meant. Sarah and I had been fighting over something trivial, and the second she left the room, my dad came around the corner and joked, "Pick your battles." Irritated, I finally asked him what he meant. He smiled and said, just because something's not important to you doesn't mean it's not to her. Try to find out what is and focus on that. Everything else, learn to let go. That moment seems so long ago. Memories like that help me remember my dad, but also remind me how depressed I've been. I miss his kernels of wisdom, and if I'm going to follow through with Mr. Peterson's suggestion in finding myself, having him around would have been nice. He might know where to begin. Instead, I'm stuck with Mr. Peterson's words. Find yourself, then you might find Christmas. Once off the phone, I hurried as quickly as I could to the store.
Fun fact about shopping in Michigan, if someone's ever going to shop here, there's only one store you're allowed to go in, and that's Meijer. The other 7-letter store is a bad word in the state, especially in Grand Rapids. We do not speak of that store. At least that's what I've been told. Meijer is a part of Michigan. It's our store. I'm reminded of that heritage as I enter into the parking lot. Every spot is filled. The parking lot is slick from ice forming on the asphalt, and ahead of me are a couple of drivers racing for a spot. Instead of trying to beat them, I'm doing my best not to hit anyone. I had to circle the lot a couple times till I found an empty spot near the back. When I got out of the car, I was reminded of how cold it can get in December. My ears stiffened from the breeze. If someone were to flick them, the pain would shoot throughout my body. I'm regretting my decision to leave earmuffs at home. I tried my best to hurry inside. If someone were watching me, they'd think I'd look funny. With ice on the ground, I kept sliding and gliding across the parking lot. I look like I'm performing the waltz with no partner. But all I'm trying to do is catch myself from falling on my backside. Finally, I grabbed the nearest shopping cart for support. Once I entered the store, I was greeted by 2 employees. I ignored them and went straight to customer service. After rushing to my spot in line, I was able to catch my breath. After all my complaining about the shoppers, I wonder if I behaved as badly as them. At this point, it didn't matter. If I leave my spot, I'm likely to lose it. Being courteous will have to wait for my next trip to the store. The line at customer service was long, like I knew it would be. I kept looking around, planning for my exit once I get the gifts. In times like this, I wish stores would have a line dedicated for pickups only. The lady at the counter is exchanging what looks like a computer monitor, and already I'm irritated. When it was my turn, I did everything I could to get out of there. I navigated swiftly past everyone, trying my best to not to get trapped near the holiday displays. Unfortunately, my effort was thwarted. I've been stopped by 2 women who found it convenient enough to catch up with each other in the middle of the aisle. My irritation is beginning to boil over. Do they not see me standing here with arms full of boxes? I look back and could see a new line forming behind me. It's like I'm in a traffic accident and these women are causing a pileup. They have to know what they're doing. I should be better off, but sometimes people have a way of pissing me off. Thankfully, someone did say something. Once outside the store, the wind began to pick up. To spare myself from dropping the boxes, I grabbed the nearest shopping cart. All of a sudden, drifts of snow came off the ground. I was beginning to lose all feeling in my face. My nose started warning me of how cold it was going to get. I looked up and could see dark clouds rolling overhead. No way to avoid it. There's going to be a fresh blanket of snow tonight. When I reached the car, all my nerves settled down. My car has this strange effect on me. Once behind the wheel, everything that was bothering me disappears, as if my car is a personal fortress. I don't think this feeling is exclusive to my car. I'm sure I'd feel this way with any other vehicle I owned. Funny thing, in college I drove a Toyota Camry. I loved that car, but in Michigan owning a Toyota didn't sit well with certain people. I remember a couple times with people warning me, if I'm going to drive on American roads, then I need an American car. Law school is when I got most of the dirty looks. It wasn't until graduation that I caved in and bought a Cadillac. It's a nice car, and I have no buyer's remorse in owning it, but I did love that Camry. I guess whatever car I own, I would feel the same way. Somehow, owning a car is my ticket away from any problem. The next reminder on my phone read Salvation Army. This reminder was letting me know where to drop off the bag we were donating. Every year, the local branch collects toys for kids in need. It's one of the first things Sarah does each Christmas. She makes certain our budget is built around donating these toys. I scrolled past the reminder to see what else I had to do. The last errand on my list was to pick up dinner at Alfredo's. Since waiting at customer service took so long, I thought it was best to skip the Salvation Army and hurry to Alfredo's. There is no better Italian food in town. We make it a point to eat there once a month. Even though they don't allow it, we usually get our orders to go. I'm one of the few people who are able to get takeout since I help their business. Every time we place our order, Brian will spend most of the conversation trying to convince me to stay in and eat. He has this idea that the only way to enjoy a meal is by eating with no distractions. He and his brother built their restaurant with this in mind. Brian would often say, Alfredo's is the place for conversations and to make memories. They even wrote this on their menu. In creating the right mood, they provide guests a better dining experience, which will help the meal taste better. At least that's what they believe. By the time I reached the restaurant, my stomach was churning. Whatever guilt I felt from skipping the Salvation Army was wiped away when I was greeted with the smell of baked bread and garlic. To help create a unique dining experience, Alfredo spaces their tables and dim their lights. In spacing their tables, they make less money, but it does make for a more intimate setting. Although this wasn't the case for tonight, Instead of having their lights dimmed, the restaurant was bright and colorful. The walls were decked with garland and tinsel. In the corner where Marcus plays his violin is an enormous Christmas tree, draped with the same pear-shaped ornaments. To top it all off, each server is wearing an awful sweater, shrouded with patches of Christmas trees and presents. I wasn't prepared for all the merriment. I was so distracted that I failed to see Brian walk up. I even jumped a little when he put his hand on my shoulder and motioned for me to follow him. My heartbeat eased once I realized it was him. I followed him. When we were alone, he asked, "How's it going, Steve?" "All right. I see you guys got into the Christmas spirit," I remarked. "Of course, it's Christmas," he stammered with excitement. "Isn't everything better around Christmas?" His cheerfulness reminded me of Carol. I cringed at the suggestion that everything is better around Christmas. Brian must have noticed my reaction since he asked, "You seem distracted. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. So much has changed in here. I'm struggling to adjust. I guess I'm just thinking." He was curious, so he dropped what he was doing and sat next to me. "What about?" he asked. I grew uncomfortable. All I wanted was to come in and get my food. However, they are clients, and it's bad for business to be rude. So I indulged him and said, "Just holiday stuff." "I get it. There's so much to do. Things that need planning. I'm sure you got a lot on your mind. Anything special you're doing?" "I think we're doing a hayride with our neighbors." "Come on, Steve. That's not special," he noted. "That's just filling in space. Something you do to take up time. Aren't you guys doing anything special?" Irritated, I challenged him by asking, "I don't know. What are you doing that's so special?" Thankfully, he couldn't tell how agitated I was and answered, "Every year my wife and I go to the senior center to help out, but this year Sean and I are taking the money we earn this week and donating it to the local food bank. On Christmas, our families are opening the restaurant to feed those who lost their home." I felt guilty for questioning his motives, but I had to ask, "Why?" "Come on, there's got to... why? Why wouldn't I? It's Christmas." "Come on, there's got to be something. Is it for taxes?" He smiled. "No, it's nothing like that. It's the season of giving." Before moving from New York, my mom would spend Christmas inviting our neighbors over and feeding them our family's lasagna. She would say how grateful she was to spend another Christmas with her kids and wanted to help others feel the same way. It's because of those Christmases Sean and I wanted to open a restaurant. You should have seen how happy she was to watch everyone sit around and eat her lasagna. After she died, we decided to do our best to be like her and keep those memories alive. Since opening the restaurant, this has been our best year, and we decided to give it a little more than before. I shook my head in disbelief. Brian asked, "You disapprove?" I sighed. "I just can't imagine doing that. What made you think of it?" "Nothing really. We feel very fortunate and wanted to help others. Haven't you ever felt that?" "Truthfully, no. I always helped others because it was the nice thing to do." Brian must have realized he had nothing to add, so he changed the conversation when he asked, "Besides the hayride, do you have anything else planned?" I wasn't certain, so I responded, "Same as anyone else. Christmas movies, caroling, opening presents, the usual stuff." "Sounds nice. Give me a second while I check on your order." I looked around the restaurant and did my best to see if anyone had been eavesdropping. I couldn't tell. I'm worried about being branded a Scrooge. It's silly to let everyone's demeanor change the way I look at myself. Why should I care if I fit in? Then again, between Mr. Peterson and Brian, there's something everyone understands about Christmas that I'm not getting. Honestly, I want to get out of here. I can see Brian talking to Sean through the kitchen door. They're discussing something. Looks like Sean's dismissing Brian's suggestion. Once Sean left, Brian turned around and made his way back to me. I asked, "Is everything okay?" "Of course. I was talking to Sean about inviting your families for Christmas." Surprised by the offer, I asked, "What did he say?" He mentioned that we're already full with volunteers, but I told him there can never be enough volunteers. Uncertain on what to say, I responded, "That's nice of you, but I think we have plans. Sarah's the real boss in our home." "Don't I know it? That's the same with me and Chelsea. If it wasn't for her, I'd be lost." He added, "Well, let Sarah know, and if you give me a call, I'll make room." Sean stepped out with my order and wished me a Merry Christmas. He stayed long enough to say goodbye, but then left to his other guests. Brian did the same. I didn't think much of their offer, so I waved goodbye and walked away. When outside the restaurant, snow started falling around me. It wasn't the light, fluffy kind, but the heavy, wet sort. In some way, I knew running errands was going to ruin my night, and with this much snow, there's no way I'm getting home soon. The biggest problem when living in western Michigan is the lake effect. Some areas may deal with it, but once that cold Canadian air crosses Lake Michigan, snow is constantly dumped over this city, and it doesn't stop until winter's over. Some years it's worse than others, and this is one of those years. The problem isn't the snow. It's what happens to the undercarriage of my car. That's the issue. To clear the roads of ice and snow, city workers drop large amounts of rock salt across the city. They use it to make the road safer, but the salt eats away at my car. If I don't wax my car, rust will start to show, and if it does, my car is ruined. Washing and waxing the car is another thing I'll need to add on my list of errands. I decided to check on traffic before I left the parking lot. I opened my phone and I wasn't surprised to find that every street has having problems. Predictable. When it's snowing, there's going to be an accident. There isn't one route which will help me get home soon. Everything's a mess. I don't know if there's a better way around, but with everything going on, taking my time home is probably for the best. I called Sarah to let her know I was going to be late. She already knew. A big rig on I-96 is causing most of the delays. She told me to drive safe and suggested that we save the food for tomorrow. That's fine with me. I still feel full from the party and I'm in no hurry to add inches to my waistline. I thought it was best to put off Fredo's in the back seat. At least then I won't be tempted to eat it. While reaching behind the seat, I saw my briefcase and was reminded of Mr. Peterson. With this much time available, I knew there wouldn't be a better moment to try and find myself. I didn't know where to start. How does anyone get to the point where they know themselves? My first thought was how irritated I've been towards Christmas. I know I'm new at this, but that seems like a depressing place to self-evaluate. I jumped off that idea and tried to find a different one. My next thought went straight into my career and whether there was something more I wanted. But that led me back to the Christmas party. I thought about my marriage, but that led me to Santa's Village. It didn't matter where I went, my mind keeps falling back on Christmas. At this point, what other option do I have but to indulge myself by trying to figure out what went wrong with Christmas? The first moments I considered were the two ladies who were blocking the aisle and Brian, who's opening his restaurant on Christmas. For some reason, both instances are making my stomach wince. Why do they even affect me? Carol then popped into my head and I felt more discomfort. I think my body's telling me something. It's not natural for it to change over memories. I think I'm starting to see my problem. My issue is in the way I see others. I really don't believe people are like this year-round. It has to be for the holiday. Maybe they're afraid to be themselves. But in my opinion, I think they're all phonies, even my neighbors. Why else would people decorate their homes the way they do? It's all for show. A couple of years back, someone suggested the neighborhood get together and decorate for community pride. What might have been a building moment for the neighborhood became something else, a way for men to display their manliness. Maybe if they were more secure in themselves, we wouldn't have to endure them showing off their manhood. A couple of guys, Pete and Ray, seemed to love the idea they could afford certain decorations above others. It's pathetic to compete over something that will run up a power bill. I feel lost. I keep finding things that are bothering me. Trying to find myself is quickly turning into finding who else annoys me. I keep thinking about where to go, but all I find are more reasons why I don't like Christmas. The only pure thought about Christmas was my family, specifically Sarah. I love seeing Sarah on Christmas morning, wearing her thermal flannels while drinking a cup of hot cocoa. She doesn't know this, but I would often stop what I'm doing and watching her looking over our kids. I could see her now smiling while they opened their presents. In those brief moments, I see my college sweetheart and I'm reminded how I fell in love. Sarah's about it. Everything else about Christmas turns sour. I love my kids, but even they turn into little piss ants if they don't get their way. But not Sarah. She's the one thing on Christmas I look forward to. Our lives are too busy to find moments together, but not on Christmas morning. The day stops and revolves around her. I'm probably too far down the rabbit hole to look at my own shortcomings. Maybe looking at Sarah would be a better place to find myself. I ran through my head all the reasons I admire her. Most were obvious. She's caring and supportive. She's kind but strong. She's the whole package. In a lot of ways, I'm envious of her. It bothers me how easily she cares for others, where I tend to be cynical. My thoughts left Sarah and focused on Mr. Peterson. I don't know why, but I love working for him. Not only for the way he treats me, but the way he treats all of his employees. In a way, I look at him as a surrogate father. Even Sean and Brian came into my mind. I may be cynical over why they're opening the restaurant, but I have to appreciate what they're doing. I can't imagine giving so much for people I don't know. Still, I'm not seeing what others see. How is it they're able to find so much generosity? The only thing keeping me away from burying my face out of shame is the idea that they're in possession of a universal code that helps them show kindness. Maybe if I can find the right combination, then I might be as festive and as giving as they are. The only pattern I see is their willingness to be charitable. All 4 of them give so freely. Maybe charity is the key. I don't fully understand charity, but at least it's a place to start. Still, the bigger question remains, how does someone become charitable? After all, charity is a vague term. It's based on the point of view from the person who's judging. One person can think they're being charitable, while another finds them stingy. Still, there are some things Mr. Peterson said about wishing that he knew me better. I've worked with him for 15 years, and after all that time, he doesn't know me. How could he not know me? I know him. I think I know him. Do I know him? He's right, we don't know each other. I don't think there's a greater indictment on someone than to work with them for 15 years and not know them. What's wrong with me? 15 years and I have nothing to show for it except my work? I choose to live my life in isolation. I'm now wondering, have I ever cared for anyone? Does no one care for me? How can you work with someone for so long and not know them? I skip these thoughts and ask myself, is it possible anyone else could feel this way about me? How could I know so many people, but know very little of them? My dad's words flashed across my mind. Just because something's not important to you doesn't mean it's not to them.
Well, we did it. We got through all 6 videos to introduce to you my book, Finding Christmas, and I can't tell you how much it means to me that you've actually watched all 6 videos. I know that everybody's in a position to purchase this book. I know that my book's not available everywhere. I can't tell you, though, how much it means to me that you've taken enough interest to actually do these videos and to sit through them. Now, that being said, I can create more videos down the line if there's enough interest from other people. But at this time, I don't know if anybody would be interested in my books. But if there's enough interest and there's enough questions, I will provide through this channel any other content that is needed, and any other future book that I may write and get published will also be on this channel. So please subscribe, share with your friends, and I look forward to seeing you down the line.